What is going on, Colts Nation? He is Jamal, and I'm Eric, your co-host of the Colts Cast. The Indianapolis Colts somehow found a way to somewhere. Hey, they found a way to pull out a victory against the Miami Dolphins, 16-10. The Colts are now 4-3 on the season. But I'll be honest, we had to be one of the worst 4-win teams in the National Football League.
Without question.
Just with how we're playing right now, but those ugly wins, we're getting it done. Nevertheless, we have a winning record. Quite a bit to break down here. Jamal, where are we getting started?
You already know what time it is, show. We got the dub. Go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button. Let us know your comments below. Let us know how you feel about the dub. I mean, again, like Eric said, it was sloppy, it was ugly, but at the end of the day, 16-10 will take it. We're now above 500 at 4-3. So, we'll start with there. But I guess, the biggest thing we need to talk about, we can start with the offensive side of the ball. And the biggest elephant in the room, Anthony Richardson. Let's talk about him for a minute.
He seems to be always the elephant in the room. Glad he got to play today. 10 for 24, 129 yards, 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, but still had a fumble loss. Took 0 sacks today. I want to talk about the pros and cons because I'll tell you right now, it was not a great game for him today. I will say pros. I counted 3 of them. 1, he didn't get hurt. I think that's a pro. He stayed healthy the entire game, did not go down. He got a standing ovation when he slid.
Every time he slid, people were going nuts in the crowd. It was crazy.
Yeah. I thought that was awesome. But then later on in the game, he started trucking defenders over, which is awesome to see. But if he would have got hurt, it would have been terrible. 2, and I think this is one of the biggest ones, sack avoidance. He should have had about the Dolphins should have had 3 or 4 sacks today. I mean, I watched one play where Jalen Ramsey just hit him straight on. Jalen Ramsey is one of the biggest cornerbacks I know. He's a big corner. Look, he just ran straight down, no blocker on him, and hit Richardson. Richardson just kind of, he whiffed that thing off. And I'm just saying, there were a lot of times where the Dolphins should have got the sack, but with Richardson's athleticism, just brute strength, they weren't able to get him down. His escapability, his power, just being able not to get brought down, I thought was incredible. And then 3, his rushing upside. It was definitely his talent was definitely on display today in the running game. I mean, he wasn't really averaging a high amount of on a yards per carry, but 14 carries for 56 yards. Shane Steichen obviously trusted him to run the ball. There were quite a bit of design runs for him, especially later on in the game. But even just creating, off a scramble or something like that, you saw it with Richardson. That's my list of pros, man. So I don't know if you want to add anything or you want to talk about the cons, but
no. I'll agree with those lists of pros. I mean, like you said, they are what they are. The sack avoidance was there. That was phenomenal to see. I was glad to see that there weren't any big takedowns because there were a couple where I was like, this is a little shaky right here. And again, creating that space. Of course, we know we talked about this 110 times where we said the availability or the ability, not availability. His availability is definitely key, but the ability to evade some of that pressure and then even on the design run, still be able to get downfield and get a first down. That's what we wanted to see. I think that he played super conservative with a few of those slides. He probably slid a little earlier than he could have or that he wanted to, but as for the sake of life and for the sake of the team, I think he just took, had to make a decision, and that was slide. Whether that be he could have run someone over like a Jalen Ramsey, who was 195 pounds, 6'1". Like you said, he's one of the biggest ones. I think Sauce is the only guy who's pretty much bigger than him at like 201. But neither here nor there. Richardson, he made a few decisions today to slide when he needed to, and we'll take that. I mean, 56 yards and 14 carries is what we want to see. So I'm glad to see that he's averaging that 4 yards to carry on there. So shout out to him for the pros. Let's talk about them cons.
Man, it was not a great game. So the inaccuracy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's there, and it seems like it's going to be there for quite a bit. He was bad in the passing game. No way to sugarcoat it here. Underthrows, overthrows, complete misses. They were all there. We got it all today. I mean, at one point, he was 5 for 18. That's a 27.8% completion rate. You cannot win football games at a sustainable rate, just like that. So, I mean, he completed 10 passes and we won the game. It's just, I mean, like that's crazy. Like he's not hitting the high percentage throws, and the lower percentage explosive throws weren't really there today outside of Pittman's 33-yarder. At one point, I was just like, "Yeah, just take some more shots downfield, man, if we ain't gonna hit the passes upfield." Like,
Yeah.
I don't know, turnovers. I felt like that was a con today. He only had one, but it was
Mhm.
it was really bad. It was
Mhm.
the botched snap at the goal line. I thought that was pretty heartbreaking. I was hoping he could go the game without turning the ball over, but, here we are. It just this wasn't a great game for Richardson. Like, yes, we wanted to see him out there, and I'll still die on the Anthony Richardson train where, I wanted him to start. We still got the win today.
Yeah.
Would Joe Flacco be better in that situation? Probably. But what's better long term? I think Anthony Richardson's development. And if he's our guy, we have
Oh,
to
yeah, for
figure out
sure.
if he's our guy.
For sure.
So you get him all the reps you can, and here we are. You got the full Anthony Richardson package today.
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing, and like you said, I mean, you'll die on that hill for sure, and I think that the average person probably will because we all want to see Richardson's success. We want to see him be at the top of his game. But I just want to say, this is nothing to do with Joe Flacco. I just want to say that this is why I stand on everything I said when that guy behind me to my left, probably to your right, I'm not sure what side it is, but JT is such a dynamic game changer in this game because even still, even with Richardson being able to evade the pressure like he did and go for those 56 yards, you still plan differently for when someone like JT is behind the court or behind the line of scrimmage, rather than when it's just Richardson with a Goodson or a Sermon there, or when it's Flacco with a Goodson or a Sermon there, because that is someone who's just so dynamic on the field and they make such a presence. And I know people say all the time, running back this, oh, Mahomes doesn't have these kind of running backs, or Lamar doesn't have these kind of running backs, or Josh Allen doesn't have these kind of running backs. But the reality of it is at this point in Anthony Richardson's career, Richardson is not Mahomes. He's not Jackson. He's not Allen. He's not, he's not oh my
Uh,
gosh, why am I blanking on Philly? Philly. What?
Jalen
Oh
Hurts.
man, Jalen Hurts. Jesus Christ, I don't know. I was thinking blanking on that.
Put
But
down the
he, but
beer,
he,
man.
but he's not that. Yeah, I know, right? But he's not those guys right now. So you have to have that running back presence in there, no matter what you are. So I now with as good as our line is, I think that matters. But getting back to Anthony Richardson as a whole, I think that, like you mentioned, those cons were there. I mean, the inaccuracies were there. We definitely saw that. And one thing I will say is that I do hate about being at the games live is we don't get to see the replays. They're only going to show the positives. So they don't show the replays on the bad throws that are going on. So I'm not even able to diag those like in real time and see, oh, did someone take a wrong step this way? Did he actually underthrow or overthrow that person? I have to just assume that, that it was Richardson's fault that he didn't make this direct pass to X and O player on the field. So it does make it a little hard to sit here and give a true, review on him without me actually going back and watching game film. But like you said, Eric, I mean, I think you mentioned earlier 5-18 at one point. That speaks for itself, stat line wise. I mean, those are issues that we see that we have to be able to develop and get better. But those things come with time. He's going to have more time on the field. And there were people out there screaming they wanted Flacco out there. There were a couple people in our section who
Really?
was, there are people saying there that they wanted Flacco out there. At one point, there are people booing. But again, I think that is
Oh,
one of
yeah.
those things
I
where,
did hear the boos.
yeah, you can hear the boos, but people like it's going to be like that for the foreseeable future until everyone gets settled down and we figure out what's the best for him. But again, repetition is what matters the most. And unless he's going to get out there and rep as many plays as he can, I mean, I don't really see that changing for the time being. But a stat line of 10 of 24 with 129 yards. Do I want to see him doing a lot better? Absolutely. But I don't know. I don't know that right now. And I know you mentioned it earlier when you first started talking about him taking deep throws and kind of going down the field to see what's opened up down there. While I do want to see that, I definitely want to see the development of the intermediate game and the short game, just because I feel like that's kind of been our kryptonite, so to speak, for him, is that intermediate and short game, rather than I know he can chuck that ball 70 yards downfield. That's zero problems for him. But there were a couple passes that were overthrown, even when they were deep passes. So I want to see him just kind of learn to get that touch on those shallow routes, or those 7, 10, 12 yard routes, and able to work the field a little bit better. But again, repetition is key when it comes to all that. So
Yeah, I would have to say, I mean, we have to get some consistency on offense, going forward. That I think this is on Shane Steichen as well, too.
For
I feel
sure.
like play calling, it wasn't optimal. We didn't it didn't hit this game at an optimal level. Like, oh, Shane Steichen's really in his bag. I didn't really feel that. I didn't see a lot of RPO. I felt like we
Yeah,
were
there's
using a
not a lot.
lot of that last year. Felt like Richardson was pretty comfortable in, maybe because JT wasn't back there. I don't know.
Mhm.
Maybe the game plan changed, but like, I don't know, spread the offense out horizontally. I felt like Richardson in empty situations, where he's in empty personnel, basically, I felt like he was a little bit more comfortable. I could be wrong, but like that dink and dunk, can we settle for short completions for once? Get
Yeah.
that going sometime so we can get the chains moving. I don't know, man. I'm not a coach, but that's just what I think.
Yeah, without question.
This offense has to find a groove. Rigoberto Sanchez, he can't be punting it 7 times a game. That's not how you win football games. So
Yeah, that's one thing I was gonna say with him winning like special teams player of the week last week. As much as I'm happy about that for him, that's not a stat I want to see. That's not a highlight I want to see. That's just like you saying that you're the greatest fourth quarter quarterback of all time. You have the most like game winning drives. Nah, dog. I don't want to see those kind of
yeah,
stats. Like I appreciate the fact that he's able to put the ball in position to where another team can't really get great field position, but I don't see my punter have to be out there 5 or 6 times to be able to drop the ball at a 20-yard, 10-yard spot and go. But anyway, different story for a different day.
yeah. We don't want to see the punter punting all game, but
Yeah.
I will say Alec Pierce stock has gone down. Of all the throws that Richardson had today, like I think one of his best was to Pierce, kind of going. I believe it was a dig route. No, it might have been just an out route to the outside, like 10,
Mhm.
15-yard pass. Went right through his hands like butterfingers, in a game where we needed our playmakers to step up. Pierce stepped down. So I I mean he garnered what, about 5 targets today. So I mean,
Mhm.
Colts like throwing them this game. I mean, the passing game wasn't really anything to talk about. I mean, Pittman had that big catch for 33 yards. So he ended with 3 catches for 63 yards. But like I said, we won the game completing 10 passes. I don't even know if we talk about the receiving core. They didn't really get much action there. The running backs, Goodson, it looks like he's taking the lead as
Yeah.
RB2 potentially.
Yeah, without
Uh,
question.
yeah, he's getting more touches than Trey Sermon. Um, but that'll probably be a moot point once Jonathan Taylor gets back in. Dalton Tucker got the start at right guard today. He got busted up on the first drive, but he cleaned it up later on from what I can see. Quentin Nelson is still the best guard in the NFL. Had a great block for the Tyler Goodson touchdown. Um, Other than that, this offense was lacking in a lot of ways, and really gotta put y'all's big boy boots on and get it popping next week against Houston, because we ain't winning like that against them. Although I will say the Texans did look like garbage today. So I think CJ Stroud had less passing yards than Anthony Richardson, if that means anything.
Ooh,
But
Jesus.
I mean, he did. And that's all I got for the offense, man.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, the offense was non-existent. Yeah, you're right. CJ Stroud did have 86 yards today. That's crazy. But I'm not here to down talk him because we didn't
I
beat
am.
them earlier. We didn't beat them earlier. We barely beat the Dolphins. We barely beat the Titans. Like our 4 wins are very, very. They're not. They're like, oh, we won. But like, I'm not about to sit here and talk crazy about any team. I'm gonna keep it a buck. But yes, you're right. Les Richardson's 33-yard pass to Michael Pittman Jr. I mean, it was definitely a lackluster game for sure. He had pretty much been on par with CJ Stroud. So I mean, it was our offense was non-existent today. It clearly shows with our 16 total points we scored. Did we need more of the offense to win? No, because obviously the Dolphins aren't. And Eric, I think I cut out there, but the Dolphins aren't the best team in the league right now, clearly. So I think that it's one of those things where where when we see that our offense was as lackluster as it was, I we need to see better. We got to see better overall, especially if we want to have any kind of consistency across the board. And I know that we have some starters missing on offense, and really the main starter being Jonathan Taylor. And I know I keep going back to him, but what we saw from Pierce for the past couple weeks, I know you talked about kind of, I don't want to say his regression because it's not a really so much a regression when it was only just 1 week where he had to just do what we've seen him do in the past couple of years. But we didn't see just a lot of spreading out of the ball. I don't know whether Steichen kind of took it light with his passing game today just to kind of get Richardson back into the groove, or whether or not this could be the potential offense moving forward. But I definitely think that it's one of those situations where we have to buckle down and realize that this could be what we're in store for. I don't see the bag continue to open up until everyone is on the same page. Now, I don't
I
know that
felt
everyone's going to be on the same page.
I felt like Steichen was trying to pass a lot today,
He tried to, yeah.
because Richardson's 14 carries, those weren't all,
Mhm.
design runs for him. I mean, I want to say almost half those runs, he was trying to create something out of nothing. So,
Sure.
because he couldn't find anything in the passing game, maybe his first read wasn't there, second read wasn't there, he took off. But I did think we were trying to throw a lot when I don't know. I think we like to lean on our running game, but again, like you said, JT's not there, so the game plan changes.
Yeah, yeah, and it's gonna be like that. I mean, again, we don't want him to just take off after your first or second read isn't there. I mean, you have three receivers on the field. Let's utilize all three of them. But in desperate times, calls for desperate measures. But yeah, the offense wasn't there. We'll see what happens next week with the offense. Let's talk about the D for a little bit.
Yeah, defense came through today, as they should have. I mean, we went against Tyler Huntley and Tim Boyle, so it's nothing to write home about. But look, we we limited them to 10 points today. We had to be happy. I didn't hear Gus Bradley's name at all today.
You're
I'm
not gonna hear it.
yeah, not gonna hear it. Now, if we would
You
have
go talk
lost
Philly.
16-10, they would have said fire Gus Bradley, even though we would have scored 10 points on offense. But that's neither here nor there. Two rookies got our 2 sacks today. It was Jalen Carlisle's, but I think before he went down, and then
Mhm,
Laiatu Latu was on the
mhm.
board. So we got pressure on the quarterback, which is a great sight to see. Probably is not as much pressure as you'd like to see, but I also did feel like they were running all over us. And if they were going to lean on the run game a little bit more, this game could have turned out a different way. Like Devon Achan, I felt like he was busting us up.
Yeah.
When Jalen Wright got his few carries on that one drive, he was carving us up.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, run defense, it's still bad. It still really is. We couldn't guard Jonnu Smith today, but we did lock up Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill. So I guess that was the compromise. Hey, no Tyreek Hill, no Jalen Waddle. We're getting a full dose of Jonnu Smith, which was fine. The game plan worked against the Miami Dolphins. We kept them 1-3 in the red zone. I'm pretty happy about this performance.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie to you. As someone who has Tyreek Hill on their fantasy squad, I was highly
Oh
disappointed
my
that
god.
Tyreek did not get more targets. But as a Colts fan, I'm glad Tyreek didn't get more targets. And I was honestly really surprised that Waddle wasn't getting it either. It was really weird hearing Smith's name call over the intercom nonstop at the game. At one point, there's a Dolphins fan sitting next to me, who traveled up from Miami, and I'm like, "Dog, has anyone else touched the ball besides Smith?" And he was like, "No, it's just been Smith the entire time." So it was really weird. I don't know what the game plan was with them, but hey, we put the straps on them. I'm fine with that because the last thing I needed to see was Tyreek Hill or Waddle just go off for a crazy game. So to see Hill get one reception for 8 yards and Waddle for one reception for 11 yards, I'll definitely gladly take the L in fantasy this week for the sake of that happening, strapping them down. But you're right, the running game for Miami was there, and I don't care who you were, whether it was Achan, Mostert, or Wright in there. They were still looking good across the board, man. It was kind of frustrating seeing these guys because the Dolphins, they didn't. I don't know at what point they decided that they were going to just abandon that game. But honestly, I feel like if they would have just stuck with their guns and kept running the ball when they needed to, they the game could have been a different way. So I think that Mike McDaniel, he kind of just I mean, Travis or Tyler Huntley only threw the ball 13 times for what it's worth. I mean, we can clearly see that. But I feel like there were some time opportunities where they could have got to run the ball, and it probably could have benefited them a whole lot more than just trying to get the ball out
Oh, he
because
got hurt, so
he did get hurt.
Tim
Yeah, I
Tim
know. I
Boyle
forgot
threw the
Boyle
other
came in for the
13.
13 times. Yeah. So they didn't really pass the ball as much as I would expect it. It was just kind of an ugly game for both offenses, to be completely honest. But I was nervous with Achan on the field. I was nervous with all running backs on the field just because they all did a great job of what they needed to do. So our run defense is going to continue to be a problem. However, I will say with that being said, with our run defense, kind of going back to what you're just talking about, with our guys getting a little bit of pressure on the quarterback with the 2 sacks, Grant Stewart, I mean, stepped in for EJ Speed today, and he was all over the field. I just everywhere I looked, he was just flying across the field. I think he ended with 11 total tackles, or excuse me, 19 total tackles, 11 solo. He was everywhere. He was everywhere, and I mean that's what I want to see for someone who's stepping in for an injured EJ Speed at the time. He's showing that he's been doing it for some special teams week over week for years. Now he got his opportunity to get on the field with the first team, and he didn't shy away from the pressure. The pressure was on, and he stood up the entire game and did what he needed to do. So I got to respect that.
Well, we probably wouldn't have seen him if Jalen Carlisle didn't go down. So
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
Jalen Carlisle technically stepped in for Speed, but you're
Yeah.
right. I mean, he was a great fill-in today. I mean, 19 tackles, that's a lot, man. You're all over the field. You're doing what a linebacker should probably be doing. Definitely helped assist that forced fumble on end goal with Zaire Franklin. Zaire Franklin also looked like that prime heat-seeking missile that I always called him. I'm used to seeing him like that. So I thought our linebackers from a tackling standpoint did pretty well. That coverage in the middle of the field is a little wonky because I felt like that's where Jonnu Smith got a lot of his completions. But I mean they were still everywhere today, so I can't fault them. They played well. But I tell you what, if there was a healthy Tua Tagovailoa on the other side, this could have been a completely different ball game. So
yeah, without question.
I can't say I'm happy with how our win went. I mean, it feels like we're getting these ugly wins. Like I feel like the Steelers right now, just like the last few years, like they get those like
squeak by.
Yeah,
figure it out.
They'll have a score of like 14 and they win by 2, like 14-12. They somehow get it done, somehow make the playoffs. Hopefully it's not like that for the future, but you know, we're winning, so it's not a heartfelt win because I know it could have very well went the other way, man.
Yeah, that's the thing with the Colts. I mean, we won about 6 points today. We have not won a game by more than 6 points. We also have not lost a game by more than 6 points. I mean, it's a pretty stagnant game for us. I said it before and I'll say it again. We play to our competition. The Dolphins are dog water, and the Colts play like dog water. That's just the reality of the situation.
And fuck the Texans, though.
Huh?
Fuck the Texans.
See, I can't sit there and say that because the same way you said we was gonna dog walk these dudes, we barely scraped by. Like every week,
I said we were gonna win, we won.
You said we was gonna be like 28-7 or something crazy like that. I didn't go back and listen, but I just want you to know.
Hey, people I don't appreciate Houston fans, so fuck the Texans.
Listen, I know, and the Texans, it's gonna be an interesting game next week. I think that's a game we should win, having to go down there, but we'll see what happens. But more importantly than that, I don't know, man. The Colts are playing ugly. It's not very entertaining watching the Colts play right now. I think that the average fan can say that is not that, you don't when you see the Colts playing, you get excited because it's football. I don't know if you get excited to see the Colts play, but you get excited because it's football. But we're gonna see what happens next week. I mean, like I said, we got to go down to Texas and see what happens with the banged up Texans team. And we got to get another divisional win. That's just the reality of the situation. Hopefully JT will be back. Hopefully D-Buck will be back. I mean, I know we're speaking into the future right now, but I think that we have a couple weapons that could come back that could definitely help dominate the game. But again, hard-fought win for us against an ugly Miami team, ugly Colts team. Dub is a dub at the end of the day. We're above 500, and that's what's most important at this time. We're 4-3 going into another divisional game, and we have two divisional games left, so we got 3 divisional games left, so we got to win all 3 of those, and we kind of move forward from there. So,
and we're about to do it next week. We're gonna start with Houston.
You got to start there.
Then we'll be tied with them in the division once we get that win. So
yeah,
hey, that's all I got, man.
That's it for me too, man.
Hey, that's going to be it for us, everyone. Thank you for listening to the Colts Cast. We're live on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or any platform you use to listen to podcasts. And we'll be back next time to give you some more Indianapolis Colts content.
Y'all take it easy.
Take care.